Hi guys, so this is my time series analysis of the Boston Beer Company's gross profit margin. This basically the background information is that the Boston Beer Company owns Samuel Adams, Twisted Tea, Angry Orchard, etc. And recently established a craft beer incubator in Vermont. So the goal of this presentation and the overall suggestion is to increase gross profit margin by creating a new microbrew that's different than the others on the market. And increasing the GPM because it has been so flat and basically decreasing for the last 50 quarters. And the reason I chose the creation of a new microbrew is because the number of microbreweries in the US has substantially grown over the last few years. And so there's an opportunity to really take advantage of the market, although there's a lot of competitors, and create a new high profit product. Here's the original data for the gross profit margin for Boston Beer Co. As you can see, there's a downward trend, the slope of negative 0.0017, and the data began in 2002 and ends Q1 2015. As I said, you can tell there's a downward trend in the GPM. And here's the regression forecast, which extends 8 quarters past the actual data, which is the forecasting period that I've chosen for this. And you can see it's pretty much mimics the trend line from before. And here's the seasonal forecast. It also extends the same amount of time as the regression forecast, and it shows the seasonality with the little peaks and the decreases. Here's the same graph with the 2-quarter moving average forecast, and I chose the 2-quarter moving average forecast because I felt it would reflect the data really well to show how the GPM is changing every 2 quarters rather than annually or quarterly. And you can see it really mimics the original data, the GPM. And then this is the final graph. This shows the exponential smoothing forecast along with all the other forecasting methods, and you can tell that also pretty much closely reflects the data on a smoother level and extends pretty far, but not as far as the regression or seasonal forecast. And also I used an alpha value of 0.10 for the exponential smoothing. And here's the error measurements that I took for each of the forecasting methods. And I highlighted the 2-quarter moving average forecast and the exponential smoothing forecast because they're the most accurate basically. And the 2-quarter moving forecast I suggest is the most reliable forecast for short-term forecasting, so for 2 quarters ahead. And exponential smoothing has the second lowest error but doesn't provide good long-term forecasting. It was difficult to pick a good alpha value for that. And then the seasonal forecast is the third most accurate form of forecasting that I found in this time series analysis, and it's basically the best indicator for long-term forecasting. As you can see, it extends 8 quarters past the ending actual data, which is my forecasting period that I wanted. And the successes of this whole time series analysis. You can see from each forecasting method the steady decrease in gross profit margin, and that is shown through every single forecasting method. And it's clear that there needs to be a business plan implemented that will help increase GPM in the long term rather than just every season. So I also wanted to mention that I calculated the errors, as you saw, using MSE and MAD, and I found mean absolute deviation to be the best fit for the projection purposes. So I wanted to predict 8 quarters into the future, which is why I used seasonal forecasting for long-term GPM and then 2-quarter moving average for near future forecasting, as I mentioned before. And then what didn't help in this time series analysis was the regression forecasting because it did contain the highest level of error. Exponential forecasting was also difficult because it was hard to find a good alpha value that would properly reflect the actual data and in a long-term manner. So, and then also the mean error was not a helpful indicator when it came to figuring out the errors for each forecasting method. It was pretty much always close to 0. And then also mean absolute percentage error and tracking signal weren't very helpful in that either. So in conclusion, you can tell that the GPM is decreasing with its negative slope. Started 50 quarters ago at 58% and is now down to 49.93%. So that's a concern that needs to be fixed in the near future. And as I said before, I think that the two quarter moving average should be used for the near term forecasting, while seasonal forecasting needs to be used for long term forecasting. Um, this GPM will continue to decrease until something happens, and that's why a new product that's different and has a higher price needs to be introduced to the microbrew market by this company. All right, thanks for listening.